Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 757. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. A funny thing happened on the way to SPaMCAST 757. I was considering critical thinking when I ran into data that challenged a common agile belief. Enter critical thinking. The idea is that constant collaboration, the goal of team rooms and always-on communication software, creates good ideas and decisions. What it boils down to is it is good, but not great. This week we also have a visit from Susan Parente, who talks about her approach to personal Kanban, something she calls Kanban for one. Susan also takes us under the hood for a view into her busy, innovative world and how she keeps it under control. Intermittent collaboration. Initial thoughts. Teams are a form of network that generate collective intelligence. It's a closely held belief that agile teams should continuously collaborate, using social influence to guide and constrain decision-making. In order to create these networks, organizations have embraced open office designs and adopted tools that facilitate always-on communication. The goal of collaborative behavior includes enhanced problem solving and increased creativity. People work together to challenge each other to go farther. This belief is partially true. It may not even be true most of the time. Teams exert pressure to come to consensus decisions based on the culture of the team. This is where constant collaboration can become a constraint. During my recent reread of Team Topologies, Chapter 6, the authors referenced an article on intermittent collaboration. The article title was, How Intermittent Breaks in Interaction Improve Collective Intelligence. Link in the show notes. The paper presents the results of a study that show that intermittent collaboration provides the benefits of constant collaboration and provide more opportunities to explore ideas that might lead to innovation. The primary difference between intermittent and continuous collaboration is team touch time. Team touch time is the time people work together versus the time they work alone. Intermittent means mixing the two interaction modes. When people collaborated intermittently, they do not spend all or the majority of the time working together. In the study, people worked together 1/3 of the time. This provided space for individuals to focus. The data in the paper shows that intermittent collaboration yielded more optimal and innovative results than constant collaboration, and about the same number of good results. The act of consensus creates more homogeneous thinking. If intermittent collaboration is an important tool, then organizations need to consider changes to team workspace design, tooling, practices, and policies. Many organizations create open office space for agile teams. The classic Scrum team room, where the whole team sits and works together, and constant mobbing are two examples. As someone who has observed teams adopting different development practices over several decades, the idea of creating an environment for constant collaboration is often considered canon. Change will fly in the face of the closely held beliefs of the continuous improvement community and consensus decision-making cultures of organizations. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. We're going to use this idea to test some of the models of critical thinking going forward in our critical thinking theme. Susan Parente, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Hi there, Tom. I'm thinking it's been a little while, and it should be more often than it is, but always great.
I wish it was more often. Our conversations are
never quite go where I think they're going to go. And I always get off our recording sessions with I end up learning more. I'm a different person than when I went in. So I am just thrilled to tears. So yes, it should be more often.
Thank you. I think the reason for that, and maybe our listeners would like to hear this, is that these are not pre-scripted. We just kind of say like, hey, what are we going to talk about? And we roll with it. It's called dancing in the conversation. So for those of you communication enthusiasts, that's what it looks like. If either one of us knew where it was going to go, it would be an infomercial. And it would feel a lot like it. And I've actually given this guidance to some of my colleagues who do some podcasts and recordings, and like they try to script it out and plan it. And I'm like, nobody's going to be interested in listening to that. Like that literally will not work. So, and I think we're proof of that. So
yes,
I enjoy it too. I don't know where it's going, but I'm excited to
it'll
get
go
going.
somewhere, and it'll go somewhere cool. I actually did have one person who actually it was, this will, when this runs, we'll be halfway through year 17 of the podcast. And I had one person who were talking about benchmarking, and I gave him the seed questions, and I said, just a rough idea of where we're going to go. And he wrote out answers and wanted to read the answers. I'll tell you, after he read halfway through the first one, I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And so we fixed it. I asked him not to read anymore.
You either are going to die or you feel like you want to. Either one or
those are related. Yeah, absolutely. Susan, you've been doing something new with your personal productivity. Something that, as we were talking beforehand, as we were getting ready to do this, you're calling Kanban for me.
So it's like this, the chef that's always cooking in the kitchen and then actually teaching other people how to cook, and then like never eats what they cook. So I decided I should start eating what I cook. And it's funny because I've always had I've done like the checklist. I make lists, I prioritize my list, and then I like check through it. That works to some degree, but I sometimes miss like longer term things, or there's like milestone dates that shift around, and so I end up with like a very scratchy, ugly piece of paper. I'm not opposed to paper, by the way. I am not. I guess I will admit I'm a Gen Xer, so we're sort of like we sit in two spaces. So we are definitely competent with computers. Had a computer when I was real young. However, I'm also very comfortable using a piece of paper, which I find that the later generations like just literally do not pick up paper. One of my students actually said he uses paper, and he happens to be in Ghana, Africa right now. He does like environmental safety. So they're doing some mining in Ghana, which I am very concerned about the safety of people in Ghana, because my guess is they're more interested in the mining and less about the safety of people. So I'm glad he's there focused on that. But apparently they do power cycling. So he's like literally has no power, no internet, no nothing. Right. So can you imagine? So I believe he's a little bit older than me, although I don't want to say any more in case he happens to listen, but just my guess from speaking with him. But in that age group, right? And he's like, I write stuff down on paper and people laugh at me. He's like, but when that power goes out, I got it on paper. And so there is something to that, being 100% plugged in is not necessarily good. But anyway, so I said, you know what, forget about this paper thing. Let me do my Kanban board, which I actually share with people and I've used for like different projects. But I said, I'm not going to use it for a project. I'm going to use it for all the things I do. So just a little rundown of all the things I do, if I can get them all. I teach at 3 universities, sometimes multiple classes at once. Right now, I am teaching multiple classes, and I'm not even going to say how many I'm teaching because I don't want any of my students to feel like they're less important on account of that. But I'm teaching multiple classes. I'm a program coordinator at University of Virginia, the project management certificate program there, which is a wonderful program. And so that's additional work I do. I'm on a contract that is half-time, part-time, 20 hours a week. And it's a federal contract doing requirements analysis work. I also am working on 2 course development projects right now and about to start a third one. I have a consulting engagement that'll be kicking off next week, and that will be going into an organization and looking at their project management needs and then helping them figure out where they need to be educated. Something very similar to that, probably later this month. Plus, I'm teaching a class next week on product owner class, agile class. And there's one other thing that's kind of congealing at the moment. In addition to my work stuff for my work that like you just continuously have like operational kind of things when you have your own business and you do 1099 work. Thank God I did my taxes. Those are completed because I have no time in April for that. Right now I'm entirely booked until until May 15th as Tom shows me his taxes for the you're obviously you can't see. We're not that exciting to watch on video, to be honest with you, but that was like probably the first time in I don't know how many years that Tom showed me something that was worth talking about. But Tom always has a stack of books behind him, just so you know. That's a wonderful thing about Tom. He's
I'm
well-read.
okay with paper.
Yes, and there we go. Hoo-hoo for paper. So that's like what my schedule looks like, right? So most people are exhausted by the time they listen to the end of that. And oh, by the way, I help my mom out. She lives a few houses down from me. Whatever that means every day, like I'd take her to get a haircut next week. She's got a doctor's appointment and groceries, and just every day I stop by. Got 2 dogs, husband, no children. Obviously, if I had children, I'd have to cut something out. I just don't know what. Probably sleep. So this is where I'm at. So in November, December last year, it was just really, really crazy. I had a bunch of course developments. I had some classes to teach. I was reviewing a book, doing a book review for a colleague of mine, Carl Pritchard, on risk management. It's actually risk management professional certification from PMI. It should be coming out soon. So I helped him reviewing that book, and that was on a very strict schedule. So like they would send me a chapter, or actually 2 or 3 at a time, and I had a certain amount of time to review it. And that's actually what pushed me over the edge. And I was like, I have these hard deadlines that I have to keep, because if I don't keep them, they're going to replace me, literally. Like that's how the publishers have to be with that, or else they'll never get it done. So I totally understand. Anyway, so that got me in this mode, and I said, you know what? I'm going to use this Kanban board that I talk about for everybody to use, but I'm going to use it for me. So I call it Kanban for me. And I never like saying in a presentation or anything I'm teaching, blah, blah, blah for you, because it sounds very preachy and teachy. And so I always have to be the first lab rat in my system. So I started putting things down. And, first of all, there's a huge relief when you write down all the things you have to do, because you're literally like, okay, I now don't have to think about them inside my head. I have them down on paper, and I don't have to worry about missing one or forgetting one. They're all there. So what's the next thing we do? Agile people out there, I wrote down a list of things to do. So Tom, do you want to interject? What do I do with my list after I create a list?
Throw it away and do whatever you want? No,
well, no. I would
maybe
not recommend.
prioritize.
That's what a great idea. So, it's funny how we often don't do that. So prioritize. So how do we prioritize? Well, we've got milestone dates. That's one way to prioritize. One of my favorites that people often forget is a low-hanging fruit. So I like to do a combination of, what is the size of this thing, or what is the effort level? What is the risk, high, medium, or low? All these things are very, very subjective, like high, medium, low kind of things. If there's a specific date that it's due, that definitely plays into prioritization. But we always feel good to like get some of that low-hanging fruit, something that adds value, something that needs to get done, but doesn't take very long. Because when we start hitting done, or moving that item over to done on our sticky board, or crossing it out on our list, whatever we do, it feels good. So you want to throw some of those in there, even if they're not as high priority, kind of get you going. The other recommendation is do the thing you least want to do first in the day, so that you're not, bogged down by it. So earlier today, I was vacuuming before I got on a meeting with Tom, because it's the thing I least want to do. And I have to dust, which is funny. So you should dust before you vacuum. But I thought about it and I said, I really don't want to vacuum. So let me do that first, even though it doesn't make sense. So I do it every week. So there's probably not that much dust. But anyway, it does make sense to dust before vacuum. But if you hate vacuuming, I recommend you vacuum first, or you're just not going to. So that's what I do. I vacuum first. So anyway, so yeah, I do some of that low hanging fruit, and then I prioritize. And honestly, the hardest thing about it is just getting everybody else around you to make it happen, meaning like to understand this is your way of operating. Doing it by yourself is not a problem, but it's training other people is what I'm finding is the challenge. So what I do is I do 1 week iterations. So I plan. So next week I started planning yesterday and today. I'll plan all the stuff that I'm going to do. Sometimes I bite off more than I can chew, and I'm okay with that. And here's the reason I'm okay with that. Planning for more than I can do pushes me to do more than I would commit to if I didn't, right? So let's say I know I can do 3 things. I plan for 6 and I accomplish 5. I still have to be happy I accomplished 5, because if I would have only committed to what I knew I could do, I would accomplish a lot less. I know that about me. Now, make sure the thing that's the lowest on your list in priority is not the thing that really has to get done, right? So that would be bad. You'd have a very unhappy customer, or your life wouldn't work very well. So if you have 6 things and there are really truly things that are more important, make sure they get first priority. But plan for 6, even though you're not sure you can do 6, like, because it'll make you stretch and it'll make you drive yourself more for that. So anyway, so that's what I did. And it's funny, there's been a week or 2 that I didn't do that because of other things happen, and some personal things go on in January and things like that. And all is fine now. But my father passed, to be honest, and that was not a planned event. So I kind of had to throw that all away. And that's actually it's interesting when I say that, because like your vision, your mission, your purpose is always the driver for what you do, right? So it was easy for me to throw away my Kanban board when that happened, without any worry or upset, because my mission, my vision, my purpose, part of my purpose is to support my parents and to help them in their elder years. I made that commitment. My husband supports me in that commitment. And so those other things, they fall second, and it's totally okay. And I was very behind, let me just say that, but there's a lot of grace from people around me, for obvious reasons. And it worked out. But I mean, I was literally out of work for like 2 weeks solid. And then when I came back, I wasn't mentally solid and mentally operating at the 12-hour days I normally do. I was just trying to get in a 6 to 8 hour day. And that's it's tough when you're used to riding it like that fast of a pace, and you step back, and not to mention what that does to you mentally, emotionally when you lose a parent. You kind of think about your whole life and like, what am I doing and what's actually of value? So that'll help you prioritize too. But the important thing with that is that your purpose, and if you don't know it, that's okay. I can tell you, I kind of think I know what my purpose is right now, but it sort of unveils itself as I go and changes a little bit through the years. And so it's not a destination, just like life is a journey, not a destination, right? The same thing with your purpose. It's something that grows and morphs. And I think as long as you're aware of like what you value, what's important to you, for me, family is very important. My religious beliefs and living a good life and being a good person and contributing to others, those are all fundamental to everything I do. And when you have that fundamental purpose, that actually drives your priorities. Like even at work, you don't think of that at work, that drives your priorities, but it actually does. And I'll show you one of the ways it does it. So for example, meeting with Tom, there are other things that I could do, but one of the things that drives me is helping other people and working with other people. I will always prioritize doing something with someone else over something that I need to do, which is why I have a book that I've been working on for years and it's still not done. So I never want to be the cog for someone else. Right. And so if somebody says, hey, I need to meet or I want to meet or whatever, like I will always prioritize that over something that I need to do heads down that does not involve anyone else. Anyway, so, your purpose does drive your prioritization and that's a good thing. Yeah, like I said, even in the work you do. So
you do all this prioritization. You do it on Thursday and Friday. I do mine actually on Sunday night, generally with a half bottle of wine, but I don't know which is more effective, by the way. But you do it on Thursday and Friday, and Tuesday somebody says, but I have to have this deliverable. I have to have this deliverable. The world will end if I don't have this deliverable.
Let me talk about another scenario before that. I will answer that, but the other scenario that comes up is, Susan, can you get this to me by Tuesday? Now, the world will end if I don't get it, but I often read into that, right? So that's the first thing is like, am I reading into someone's request as they have to have it by Tuesday, or could they actually wait till next week? There are a lot of requests that come to me that I say, oh, okay, so I got a lot of deliverables going on this week. Would I be able to get that to you on Monday? Or, is this something that you need right now? And a lot of times people they're gonna say Tuesday because they really need it by Friday, or they really need it by Monday morning, but they know you might be late, right? So so some of this is about what's your relationship with them, what level of trust do you have, which obviously if you want to build trust, really easy. Tell somebody you'll get something done on a certain time and then get it done by that time. And if you're not going to get it done, let them know in advance and tell them you're not going to get it done. You're going to be late. That, by the way, also builds trust. I literally had a client tell me that, I felt like I've been behind. I've changed the schedule a bunch of times. They didn't have that feeling at all because they never came to me and said, where's that deliverable? I always said, hey, I'm running a little late with this. I'll have it to you a few days later. And I gave them a few days notice before. And so their experience is that I'm on time. And what their actual experience is integrity. That's what integrity is. Integrity doesn't mean you'll be on time for everything. It just means you'll be on time or you'll communicate when you're not. And when you're and even if you're late, you will clean it up. Like I was late, I get the impact of that, and I won't do it again. No excuses, no like I was late because of this or da 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 da, or you don't understand, or if you didn't get me this on time, that like those things are all excuses, but just clean it up and fix it and have that integrity. So somebody once explained to me, integrity is like the spokes on a wheel, a bicycle wheel. If you pull out all the spokes, the wheel has no integrity. In fact, if you pull out half of them and you hit a pothole, you probably bend the frame on your bike wheel, right? So integrity is just having strength, and that builds trust in your relationship. So you don't have to be on time with everything, but you do have to communicate if you're not going to be.
Understood. But we're back to, hey, the world's going to end. Whether or not it really is going to end is probably, but you didn't plan it on Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
I'm not used to you planning it on Thursday, but I'm going to just tell you, on Monday that it's due on Tuesday.
Okay, so this ends up being like an iteration. We plan for an iteration. You can actually terminate an iteration. It should not be a common occurrence, but you can actually terminate it and then replan that iteration again. But that means that I'm not just shoving, 11 pounds in a 10-pound bag. Like I'm
so
actually
going
to, I'm gonna have to remove something right now. There is a cost to it, not just the thing that gets removed, but planning takes time. So you're then on Monday going to have to take away some of your time from getting work done to have to replan. So obviously you only want to do this in emergency situations. So that's what I would do. Something's probably going to go. It's probably going to be that sixth thing of the six things I hope to do, right? The other thing with that is the hardest part about all this, and that is training people around you. So did they know on Thursday or Friday, or in your case, Sunday night, that they needed this on Tuesday? And if so, I've got to train them to communicate that to me in advance. So I'm always available. This doesn't mean if somebody says, hey, can we meet this week for an hour or half an hour, whatever, I'm always available for a meeting. But meetings aren't the same as deliverables. Deliverables like hang above me. Maybe it's the project manager in me, but they're just like, oh my God, I got to get that done. I got to get that done. I got this deliverable. I got to get done. Not to mention the fact that being a left brain engineer and project manager, like I really, really like to get stuff done. Like I feel great about it. It's funny because somebody described this to me as it's actually a masculine feminine energy. So they say that the masculine energy prefers working with objects and feminine energy prefers interacting with others. And as you know, I am a woman. And so probably by my voice and some other things, as an engineer, I definitely have a more masculine brain and a more masculine way of operating. I like dealing with objects. I actually prefer objects to people most of the time, but I'm also an extrovert. So it's very complicated in a way.
That is complicated.
It is complicated. So I love people and I love interacting with people. I talk to my students on the phone and I give them all of me. When I teach, I put all of me into that, and I'm energetic and I'm outgoing, and that's great. But there are times like I'm working on something and I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to have a meeting. I just want to put my head down and get it done. And if somebody's like, "Oh, I want you to work with so and so," I'm like, "I really don't want to work with so and so. I just want to get it done." Like I just like getting stuff done, and that is a factor of being a more, I think, object focused person than people focused person, right? So but anyway, so it's very gratifying for me. And there are actually a lot of project managers, whether masculine or feminine, it doesn't really matter, who just like checking stuff off. They like checking boxes off. I mean, I know people who like making lists just so they can check stuff off the list. So if you're one of those people, you need to be using a Kanban board on a regular basis. And the nice thing about it is you don't need it for the whole project. You can just do it for your tasks, whatever those are.
Are you using a tool to do this?
Oh, actually, yeah, that's the funny thing. So I use Excel. I actually recommend Trello to people unless it's something that can't be in the cloud, unsecured environment, which is like the government work I use. I don't use Kanban. When I do Kanban, I either use Microsoft Planner, has sort of like a rudimentary one that comes with Teams. If you're doing federal contract work, you've got Teams because it's all O365, all the federal contract stuff I've done. You may also have Jira. Depends on the contract you're on. I've used Jira on some of those. Jira is a lot more complicated than you need for something like this. Trello would be my recommendation if you're working with other people, but I'll tell you why I use good old-fashioned Excel. I use good old-fashioned Excel because just as I'm sitting here talking to Tom, I could click on my spreadsheet tab and I can see it. I have two things that I always have up. One is my work log, that I log actual hours and sort of scrib notes of what I've done, because I'm working on a few projects where I have like billable hours. So I've got to track the hours and what I'm doing on what days. And in some cases, I literally track what time. So it's like if I worked in the contract from 8 to 12, I'll put 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and track the hours like that. So I have that up all the time. And I always have my task tracker up, which is basically my Kanban board. And so I like it because I can have it always up like that. If I was using Trello, I would have to log into Trello or find the tab. And if you look at my browser windows, I've got three instances of Google Chrome and one of Edge, and all of them have 10 to 15 tabs open at once. So it's going to be a pain in the butt if I do that. Like, it's just not going to be very accessible to me. But if I'm working with somebody else, I do like Trello because you can update it and they see it real time, like everything's synchronized. I don't use, what's the other one called? Looking on my phone right now. Evernote. I use Evernote is also like, and both of those are free. So if you're doing anything, you can do, Evernote can be used collaboratively too. You can share stuff with people in that way. But anyway, so those are some of the different things I use. But yeah, I just like the Excel spreadsheet. And it's funny when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, can I see a copy of it?" It's like, and it's so simple. It's so silly how simple it is, but yet it works, you know. And I I will put that out there. If you're listening to this, listen to my contact information at the end that I give you, and go ahead and email me, and I can send you a sample one of what I use, because it's really big. You'll look at it, you'll be like, wow, it's simple. So that's the great thing about Agile. All the solutions are simple. The hardest part is the people. Like telling people, you cannot ask me on Monday for something on Friday. You need to ask me the week before. And that's the part that's tough. You got to train everybody else.
So, Susan, how would people get in touch with you and have that conversation?
Oh, great. Yeah. So my timing was perfect. Okay. So you can email me. It's Parente, Parente, at S as in Sam, the number 3 -TEC, TonyEdwardCharlie.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Susan Parente. I show up as being in the DC area, and I have a bridge behind me, which happens to be the new New York bridge for those of you who are in the New York area. So I do work in the DC and New York areas. So that's why my profile looks like that. They won't let you put more than one area in LinkedIn. So I have the new New York bridge behind me, and then my location says DC. And by the way, I don't live in either place. So I live in between the two places.
Eastern metropolitan area, or, the megaplex on the East Coast. Susan, as usual, fantastic conversation. Went into all sorts of fun areas. Until next time.
Okay, great. Until next time.
In Re-Read Saturday News, this week we are back with Chapter 6 of Team Topologies, Organizing Business and Technology Teams for Fast Flow. The boundaries of teams are shaped by numerous pressures, ranging from corporate politics and specialism to architecture structure. Inspecting the majority of teams, it would seem that boundaries are the outcome of a random walk because they reflect all of these pressures over time. For more of a dive into the topic, check out the book and the whole reread. In the next Software Process and Measurement Cast, SPaMCAST 758, will feature our discussion with Jeffrey Miller. We will discuss the idea of tribal knowledge in playbooks. Teams generate a lot of information and knowledge. Capturing that knowledge is not as easy as wishful thinking or waving a magic wand. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?